بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. So Jazakallah for coming. It's a bit embarrassing that ulama have come just to. But I guess it's for the ilm that you're coming, so we'll take it as you come for ilm, inshallah. So alhamdulillah. So it's a book launch, meaning basically a lot of people ask questions like, what's the book about? How is the book written? How is it taught? Why did you write it? What's the difference? So instead of repeating the same thing over and over again, inshallah, I'll just run through things that I think are important to know about the book, the pros, some issues you need to know before, cons kind of maybe. And then any questions, inshallah, then anybody's free to ask, inshallah. So the first thing is obviously why I decided to write or try to attempt this. So if you understand the journey, then it probably makes a lot more sense what the book's about. So when we studied, a lot of you who have studied in Urdu will be familiar. So we studied a book called Nahwamir. So people do Nahwamir, do Asan. Others who study in Urdu, Nahwamir, have Asan, Nahwa, Ilmun Nahwa, similar. So these books, they're just very theory-based, and it was in Urdu for us as a challenge. A lot of now being in English, to have translation of these books. Now, I wasn't too keen on this. I got good marks in this book as well, but it's just like you just learned something. Now, they're probably much greater ulama than me, but people like me who are a bit weak, we find it a bit difficult because like the first thing you learn is like lafz mawdu'. Now, lafz mawdu' and muhmal is because basically, from my understanding, is in kafiya, there's a lafz mawdu'un. And then from there, Mullah Jami then like taqsim that why is it lafz mawdu', lafz mahmud, muhmal, and it's like it became part of it, and it's like unnecessary words, and straight away you learn about it murakkab sarf and murakkab bina'i, and you only need ba'la bakka like in hamasa, like in third year 3 or 4. So like to me, so when I started teaching like these things, like it didn't really make sense for me doing this. So I said, but then the two other books that we studied in Madrasa, which I quite enjoyed, one was Dasabak. So obviously that's because it's like you're actually doing Arabic, you're actually seeing the Arabic in use. So Dasabak. And Tamil Nahwa. Tamil Nahwa is good it's got its pros and its cons, but I'm not here to discuss other books. And then when I was teaching, I taught Mu'allimun Insha. So it's in Urdu. Again, it has its pros and its cons. I'm not here to discuss those things. I mean, what I think are pros and cons are probably better than my book, but just what I thought was some cons. So then, what I did was I thought, let me just try doing something. And I was teaching in Urdu at that time, so this is like my windows I was going through today, seems like old documents. So in 2009, I had like Al-Insha, I did in Urdu, and so I don't remember doing this, but it's on my computer, so I must have done it. So I tried to do it in Urdu, because I was teaching Urdu that time. So similarly, trying to make it simple, easy, get the main merge of the Nahwa books, a bit practical. So that's what I was trying to do when I was teaching Urdu at that time. Then after that, I had English students, and then I had to change over because the students, like I had a student from Sweden, he doesn't know English, so then I had to can't teach Urdu anymore. So then we teach in English. And these two books came out. Now, there was a first effort, and they're out of print now, they're no longer available, we're not printing them anymore. Obviously, after I published them, it intentionally was originally supposed to be like 6-7 parts. So I've even got the 6 parts laid out, the structure on computer somewhere. But after read more, I get experience, and then I kind of thought, this needs a bit of work. So then just aborted that and said, let's try this again. So then we tried it again. What I did was because see what happens initially is because when I first started off teaching, a lot of the thing was copy and paste or translation. So whatever the other book had, you just translate or. So I thought, let me just rethink as an English speaker, English student, what do they need to understand? How do they think? What issues do they face? Not just let me translate the Urdu book into English or just change it. So we had this book, First Steps in Nahwa. It's very, very small. It's about 26, 27 pages. I've got a video series on it as well. It's maybe 25 lessons, 20 minutes each. So a very quick book. It covers the main concepts, no exercises, no tamreen, just simple layout. And it goes, that sense that had the structure. You discuss words, you put words together in a sentence, and you create the slots. Then you say, well, how do you then break these sentences down into phrases? Then you have pronouns. Then you have a sentence within a sentence, like a maqool, or you have an-masariya, mawsul silat, those kind of things. And then harfu'at, join two sentences together, qasam, jawab, qasam, shart, jawab, qasam. So it builds up in a logical, but it's very short, but it covers all of these ideas. But obviously that wasn't so that was the first go, and that's the idea, and that system that we had then is still exists in the book that we have today in front of us. But obviously it was expanded and then abridged and then lengthened and then edited and exercises. So it's been going on for a decade. Yeah, or a decade and a bit more. So I had one complete guide to understanding Nahwa, and I put loads of stuff in it, but no exercises, and then again trial and error, and I've been doing this. So the reason I mention all of that is just to show that, it's not just we tried different things. We tried a lot of things, and it's not even close to perfect. It's not even maybe hopefully inshallah it'll be acceptable inshallah, but it's it's been thought through. And that's what we have in front of us right now, the book that you have in front of you, First Steps in Understanding Arabic. So that's why I prepared the book, and that's the reason it's in front of you today, inshallah. Alhamdulillah. Now how the book, like the structure of the book, so how is the book laid out? So again, I told you before, is that what we have is, we have the 6 units again. The same 6 structure, the same system that we had in that book, we have the same system again here. We have the words, the sentences, the phrases, all of those, same structure. So in unit 1, we discuss words, then we explain nouns, verbs, particles, a bit more detail. So first of all, they understand, okay, what's the ism, what's a fa'al, what's a harf, the qualities of ism, ma'rifah, nakira, mudhakkar, muannas, to get those basics in place. And then after that, second is, well, you got all of those now, you know words, put it in a sentence. You learn jumla ismiya, and then a bit more about jumla ismiya. This inna, even the harf mushabbah bil fa'al, you don't do all of them, it's inna. Because you don't need anna at the moment, later is a bit less used. So this inna, just focus on one for now, get the use of it. Kana and laysa is enough, fa'al naqis. Just get the basics introduced for now. Then the second section, then we have jumla fa'aliyah. So all the jumla fa'aliyah slots, and a few more rules about jumla fa'aliyah. Maybe you have innama, you have qad, etc. So now you got a sentence. Then the third unit, because third unit is quite long, it has two sections, part 1 and section 1 and section 2. So in section 1, we have like mawsuf, sifa, man'ut, naat, the normal phrases, number phrase, adad, ma'adud. So those are what we have in the section 3. Now section 3 part 2 is then we go to shibhul jumla, the jar majroor, and the mudaf, mudaf alayhi zarf. Now this is one of the key sections of this book. It's unique, it's a hard effort at it. It's different to a lot of things because the shibhul jumla is not really explained a lot, the jar majroor and the ma'ani, etc. So it's quite detailed in this book. So that's one of the main, it's not difficult, but it's a new thought out idea, new laid out. So when you see it, you will have like maf'ul ghayr. It's not my ideas. I've taken all of these things from just like other scholars and say, well, what he said here is maybe not mainstream, but it's very easy to understand. So just take that. Normally we take Basri opinions, but you know what, this Kufi opinions is so easy, just take it. Whether it's technically, very technically, when you go like and argue like 10 poems down the line, it's not correct, but for a layman it's alright. Like for example, like Amr, he says Majzoom. When you say Amr, that's a Kufi opinion. When you say Amr is Mabni al-Dam, al-Sukun, it's saying that Majzoom, they get confused. It's like, if the Kufi opinion is there, just take that for now, it's easy. When you have the Ism of Nafi Jins, Mabni al-Fat. So why is it Mabni al-Fat and not Mansub? We say it's Mansub, that's a Kufi opinion. It works. You get what I'm saying? So those kind of things, we just took what were the easy opinions. So it's not like a technical, a book where you're going to find, this is exactly the mainstream opinion after all these PhDs have been written. It's basically somebody who simply wants to understand the Arabic language, you get a madkhal. And after this, obviously, you can go into more technical stuff and they say, okay, right, there's 2 opinions here, this is not the Rajih opinion, etc. But the opinions in here are just very easy, in my opinion, to understand. Yeah. And then in unit 4, you have 2 sections again. The pronouns, you have the marfu, the mansub, the majrur pronouns. I explain those very simply. And then in section 2 of that same unit, we have the asma'ul istifham, the interrogative pronouns, and then we have the ta'keed, mu'akkad, ta'keed structure, etc. We discussed that in there. Then in section 5, we have a sentence within a sentence. So for example, the khabar is a sentence, the hal is a sentence, the sila is a sentence, sila is always a sentence, ma'tuf is a sentence, badal is a sentence, mudhaf alayhi is a sentence. So now they're making the sentences, so a slot now has a sentence, and that's the structure. And then section 5, unit 5 is that whole thing. And then unit 6, then there's like 2 sentences put together. So ma'tuf alayhi ma'tuf, nida, jawabun nida, qasam, jawab qasam, shart, jawabu shart. And it's the whole structure builds up like that. That's how the book is laid out. That's the whole structure of the book. And within each section, what we try to do is, for example, this is like a sample page, and more or less, this is a simple, it goes up. So you have the rule is explained, and then we have an example of translation. So this is the example, this is how we translate it, etc. Then within the tarkib, laid out in table form. So you can see so every single new structure, the tarkib is written down, laid out in form. So they can see one example of tarkib. So from the beginning, from jumla ismiya all the way to shart, jawabu shart, there's one tarkib written in a color code system, so they can easily identify. So they know how to tarkib. Then you have the vocabulary with the English right there, and the exercises. So this is kind of a template throughout the entire book. Yeah. And what we've done, for example, as I said before, is we try not to make it just a translation of an Urdu book or an Arabic book. We try to say, well, what does the English speaker need? So for example, like this is probably simple, but I guess I'm al-mar'i yuqisu ala nafsi. So what I found difficult, I'm trying to make easy for other people. So for example, you have a khabar, it's a jumla. So some people how they mix up this, for example, Allah, His mercy is vast. So it's very obvious to some people, but people like me, a bit weak, so we get mixed up. So I explain that, how do you translate this correctly? So it's got other things which are not, so it's not just a translation of other books. It's trying to say, well, an English student, how to get this Arabic structure into English. So we're trying to take that on board. Like another example, like for example, the Mawsul Sila. So sometimes the which, who, that, whom, that might be a bit difficult. So we've got like additional exercises to explain. So this was a bit difficult, so we put the step by step, broke it down. How do you translate step 1, step 2, step 3. So when we found it difficult, our students, and I said before, this is more, we didn't write this book in like a room. We wrote this book in a classroom. Basically, prepared the lesson, taught it, realized, oh, well, this didn't work, try it again. Change this, add something. And as time goes on, we'll make changes to this book as well. It's not final. I mean, it's final, it's printed. But in 5 years' time, we'll say, well, what suggestions have we had? What changes we need to make? So we try to do that as well in the book. And then, like, for example, another thing we've done, for example, like 2 things with similar structures. You get confused, we try to separate them. Look, if a masdar is this meaning, it's maf'ul lahu, this meaning maf'ul mutlaq. Try to like chart, simplify, explain the differences. And we'll have exercise to basically then clarify the differences. Yeah. Again, so we try to, like, as much as possible, when we've got not a jumla, a ma'rifah word, a nakira word, table, as simple as possible. And then with each of these, the next page is exercises. So we try to keep that in place. Some structures which in Arabic is simple, like for example, the min bayaniya. That's different. It's not like how do you translate that in English? How do the Arab of that in English? We've got the Arabic, the tarkib here, and then we explain step by step. It is not a normal English structure. So then how would you translate it? And we had all this kind of verified by a few, some editors and people who were good at English, and we had an English teacher as well. She edited it as well. So alhamdulillah, hopefully inshallah, it will not have too many mistakes inshallah. And if the mistakes are probably my fault, yeah. Again, summaries, charts, we try to keep that in the book. Yeah, so this is, again, this sample pages, you can see how it's laid out. Even some structures which are not common in normal books, like for example, harf mawsul, ism mawsul, what's the difference, how the translation difference. Because for example, like, Wallahu khalaqakum wa ma ta'amalun. So is it ism mawsul, harf mawsul? Is it, so then you can get the ikhlaf and the aqidah in there. So all of these things, obviously don't discuss that masala here, but you get an idea of trying to explain it, how the difference is, how, so we can, so a lot of different things have gone into it. So we try to keep as simple as possible. Those masail are not necessary, or which we thought were not that important, we kind of left them out. Any questions so far? Anybody following? Yeah. Inshallah, at the end we'll have an open thing we can answer this question, inshallah. Now, so that's the idea of how the book's been laid out. In terms of how we teach the book, it's not how the book should be taught, because you might know better than me, but how we thought the book should be taught. So what we've done is, in our syllabus, we have 1 hour a day, and 5 days a week. Every day we teach it, all 5 days of the week. And it takes 2 years. So in the first year, it's 6, as I said, it's 6 units. So in the first year, we do from unit 1 to the end of unit 3. So which is basically from all the way to the end of phrases. And then in the second year, we finish off. So that's how we do it. Because we haven't taught that year 2 that many times, this section. So we may be able to finish a bit quicker. It might take a bit longer, but probably quicker, because we've done it last year. We finished it off, and this year we got a bit more time. So this up to year 1 is very easily achievable. And this is probably an underestimation. You could probably finish it a bit earlier. But again, it's in 2 years. If you plan over 2 years with that timetable, we managed to finish it. Okay. And the exercises, what we do, because obviously you have to get a balance between oral and writing. So our approach, we've tried different variations, writing 5, writing 10, writing all. And obviously it gets a bit thing. So what we've done is oral. We do all exercises orally. And the last 1 or 2 of every exercise, we make them write it out. So they have a sample of one sentence, one translation, one tarkib in the book for every exercise. So they can see how the books, so all the examples and all the structures, all the rules are all in there. So that's how we teach it. So maybe somebody's, and what you could do, for example, we don't have an extension book, but let's say somebody's really clever and they're finishing it, so we'll write a few more. But what they do, probably start writing slower. The students are clever, they'll catch up on that. But if you've got someone who's really enthusiastic, and they say, well, look, I'm finished, so write a few more. Okay. And one thing we don't have in this book is we don't have English to Arabic. We have Arabic to English. And the reason is English to Arabic is very beneficial. I mentioned this in the introduction as well. It's very beneficial, but it takes quite a long time. And then if you were to add those exercises, it wouldn't be a 2-year book. It would probably take a lot longer. So we sacrifice that. But if a teacher maybe can give the clever students a bit more in English to Arabic themselves. But there's no English to Arabic in the book itself. So that's one thing you have to keep in mind. And again, this is how we teach it, but you have to use your discretion. Maybe some exercises, sometimes we put a lot of exercises because some students might find it confusing. if you thought, you know what, this exercise is quite simple, the students get it, you can just skip it or just do a bit of it. Maybe don't write those exercises out. So you have to use a bit. You can't, as I said to you before, each institute, each madrasa group of people, they have their own philosophy, time limitations. So this is how we do it. You have to use your own discretion to suit your system, your nisab, your madrasa, etc. And a few things you would want to keep in mind before, if you do decide to teach the book in your madrasa, is because you have a particular structure. So like certain things that are important, they come a bit late. Because like, I mean, there are different ways of doing it. So like Zamir, it comes in section 4, which is like second year. So obviously that's important. So obviously that's something you have to keep in mind. So if this is the only book, then you have to probably pause over there. But if you have other books with it, then it's not a problem because it will come another book, like Zamir will come another book and somewhere or the other. But if it's the only book, then what we have is that we have the purple book, the first steps in Nahwa. If you teach that, then they would have an idea of all the main terms anyways. So then even if Zamir comes in detail in second year, they've already got rough ideas. So if you do Qisas or another literature book, so yeah, we've done it basically in the purple book, a small little booklet in 8 weeks. So yeah, you can refer back to that. We've got the basic idea. So that's how you could work around it. But if it's the only book, then you will have to think about that, you know, if it's the only book in Madrasa, then well, pronouns will come quite late. Mawsul Sila comes quite late. So to the workaround is have that purple book for the first 4 to 8 weeks. Or you could say, well, when it comes to Qisas, teach them from this book that here, Qisas, you need the Zamirs, go through Zamirs here quickly. So, but that's something you have to work around. But this is one thing to keep in mind. Because obviously if you have this the only book and you want the literature, like Qisas, you haven't the Zamirs yet, it's like how can that not Zamir? Because you can't get everything at the beginning. You have to just pick and choose. So maybe it's my choice of how I decided. I think it's the best to lay out. There's pros and cons to it, but you have to keep that in mind. That's one thing you need to keep in mind, inshallah. Also, it's very long. So you have to make sure that, you know, you can, whatever your system, your nisab is, how many years you have for this book, you're able to fit it in. But on our structure, what I explained to you before, if it's, you know, 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, 2 years, it shouldn't be a problem, inshallah. And that's with exam, revision time and exam, etc. Yeah, and in terms of resources, what we offer in terms of resources, we have the whole playlist. So as I said before, as I said, you've seen that I've been through so many different variations. So I originally called it first steps in Nahwa. It was have 2 levels and it all changed. But the level 1 covers all with the end of unit 4. And in unit 5, I didn't make videos because I was just trying to get the book finished off. So from unit 5 to 6, there's no videos for that at the moment. Maybe if the syllabus sort of allows me to make videos. But from unit 1 to end of unit 4, there's all videos there. Everything's explained in videos. It's called Nahwa level 1, but it's just this book here in front of you. So you can use this. Everything's explained. There's videos. And those resources are available for free for anybody who wants to use it. It's on, if you go to our website, there's a resources section and a link to Dropbox. You can download it. You can take it. It's not a problem. The resources are available for anybody who wants it. So those 2 resources you can use. So the videos are, and again, in the Madrasa, all our videos that we have recorded, there's everything's on YouTube. Whatever is recorded, it's on YouTube. So nothing is taken back. You can just use that. So these 2 resources are all available. In terms of exams, what we have is, we have obviously we have in-house exams, but if anybody's interested, or maybe they want to have like see the standard, or maybe we can share the exam. Obviously we can't mark your exam, but we can share the exams and an answer sheet. So you can say, well, this is what kind of questions are. So every year we have a Telegram channel, or if we want to make a group later, or you can share you can share in even the Google Drive. These are exams for this year, but we give it to you after our exams are finished. Not our students will get our exams and they'll cheat in that one, but we'll give you the exams afterwards so you can see it. So if you want to take the exams from here as well, every year we have the same unit 1, unit 2, the different tests. You can take those as well. We can give you the answer sheet as well. So you can use those, inshallah. Normally future projects I don't discuss it because, you know, we don't know what's going to happen. But because like it's kind of like a syllabus kind of thing, so it's the so you just stay quiet and just do your job, and when it's done here, this is the job. But because people are asking, well, what's up? What about this? What happens after this? So a few things that are linked to this, I'll just mention here. So this first step in Tan is Sarf. This is Arabic Nahwa, but we're doing Sarf, inshallah. So it is on the way, inshallah. You don't need to message me to ask me when it's ready. Inshallah, when it's ready, I'll put it on the social media platform, etc. So what that is basically is going to be, can you give me that book, please? That one, the big one, yeah. Yeah, that one there, please. Yeah. So what it is basically it's tables. So all the tables from Thulathi Mujarrad all the way to Thulathi Mazid Fi, including the Ajwaf, Naqis, Mudha'af, Lafif, all of them. All the tables, and then with each of them, there's some exercises. But again, it's a work in progress. Inshallah, hopefully within 2 years or so, it'll be ready. So it will go hand in hand with this, inshallah. So that first step in Arabic is independent. It doesn't have sarf rules, but you can get by. So if you have another syllabus, another book for sarf, you can carry on with that, and then that will help cover up the verb aspect in there. And there is a project underway, But inshallah, make dua that Allah accepts it. I only mention it because people are asking, what about Sarf? So inshallah, there will be something. This is only an in-house book. It's not available. It's a draft copy. It's got loads of typos and mistakes, and still work needs to be going on it. But it is something we're working on. So now you have 2 books. If you wish to use both books together, you can. Inshallah. And then after that, in terms of what about after this Nahwu book, what do we do? Well, you can go to Hidayat Nahwu, Qatun Nada, you can whatever books you wish to use. But in our madrasa, we have 2 books that we use at the moment. It's simplified Arabic books. One called Sughra fi Nahwu, one called Wusta fi Nahwu. Very simple baby books, very basic language, easy examples, a very small little booklet, and then only the main rules. And Wusta has got a few more of the other rules, and it's got all the Arab of all of the words, all the examples. So for example, like the Arab, classical, not Turkey, classical Arab, from how the Arab Quran books have it. So you get familiar with that. So we do these 2 books. These are, so if a person decides, well, maybe you want to try your Arabic syllabus, this is available, Sughra is available right now. Wusta, inshallah, be available by the end of the year, hopefully, if Allah's tawfiq, inshallah. There's other stuff as well, but this is what we hope. And I only mention this because it links into the whole Arabic syllabus that we have. So that's a brief rundown of what the book's about.